They say influence can be a gift, but in the wrong hands, it can become the sharpest weapon. The story of Sana Yousaf is not just about a woman who rose through the currents of power. It is about how ambition, manipulation, and betrayal can entangle one person's life in ways few could ever imagine. Her name still echoes and whispers, half in awe, half in fear. Who was she? Really a victim of circumstance, or the mastermind of her own fate? Sana Yousaf was born into a world of contradictions. On one side, she was surrounded by privilege and opportunity, educated in prestigious schools and taught to carry herself with confidence. On the other, she grew up amidst traditions that sought to define and limit her. But Sana was never one to settle for being defined by others. From the start, she carried a fire in her that few could overlook, a fire that drew people toward her as though she were destiny itself. Her influence didn't emerge overnight. At first, she was known for her sharp intellect and her uncanny ability to read people. Friends described her as magnetic, persuasive, someone who could turn the tide of an entire room simply by speaking a few words. With time, her charm and eloquence placed her at the center of circles of power, political, social, and financial. She was more than just present. She was essential. Those who once underestimated her began to recognize that nothing moved forward without her blessing, her advice, or her silent approval. But influence always comes at a cost. For every alliance she'd built, Sana Yousaf made enemies, some hidden, some bold. Behind the curtain of her success lurked whispers of scandal, accusations of deceit, and rumors that her hands were not as clean as they appeared. Was she orchestrating events for the greater good, or weaving a web designed to ensnare anyone who dared to oppose her? It was this uncertainty that made her both admired and feared. As her power grew, so did the scrutiny. Journalists began digging into her connections. Rivals plotted her downfall, and even those closest to her started questioning her motives. Injustice became a theme in her life, sometimes against her, sometimes because of her. She claimed to be the target of smear campaigns, of fabricated stories designed to discredit her. Yet at the same time, critics accused her of using her position to crush dissent, silenced voices, and bend the truth to her will. The line between victim and perpetrator blurred until no one knew on which side of history she truly stood. The most haunting chapter of her story unfolded when accusations turned into public trials of opinion. Her reputation, once her greatest strength, was now her most fragile weakness. She watched as allies abandoned her, as the world she had carefully constructed began to fracture piece by piece. But even in her lowest moments, Sana Yousaf never completely disappeared. She fought back with statements, with defiance, with the same sharpness of mind that had brought her power in the first place. For her supporters, she was a symbol of resilience, a woman battling injustice in a world that wanted to bring her down. For her enemies, she was finally being exposed for who she truly was, a manipulator caught in her own game. And so the story of Sana Yousaf becomes less about a single individual and more about the paradox of influence itself. How far can someone rise before their influence becomes a threat to those above them? How many enemies can one person outsmart before the tide inevitably turns? Her name reminds us of a brutal truth. In the halls of power, there are no permanent friends, only shifting interests. Those who celebrate you today may be the very ones plotting your downfall tomorrow. Some call her story a tragedy. Others call it justice. But all agree on one thing: Sana Yousaf's tale is unforgettable. It is the portrait of a woman who lived in the gray space between hero and villain, who proved that influence is never neutral, and who showed us that injustice does not always come from the outside. Sometimes it grows from within. And now, as her legacy lingers, one question remains. Was Sana Yousaf destroyed by injustice? Or did she become its architect? The answer depends on who tells the story.